Now, this story is actually a long time coming. This is actually an update, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an update as to what's going on with this story. And I did this before. You can go back and watch it on the channel. It seems that everything I said about this story was also right. But before we get into the details, let me give you a disclaimer because this might be your first time here. We're going to talk about Elijah. I don't know if it's Vue or Vue. So out of respect, if I call him Vue or Vue, if it's not correct, just bear with me. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary really also short. Contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. Now, I'm actually going to use a source. It is courttv.com. So if they're listening, thank you for the article. I know they have a YouTube page, so you guys can shout them out there. So I'm reading from their article. This is an update. A Wisconsin mother and her boyfriend are facing additional charges after the body of 3-year-old Elijah Vue was found last month. So initially when we talked about this story, they didn't even know what this boy's dead body was. But thank goodness, because this is going to create a solid case. But they found his body, and just what he went through was flat out torture. On Friday, Katrina Bauer was granted a $400,000 cash bond, and her punk ass boyfriend Jesse Vang. Let me get him on the screen because he looks like a Jesse Vang. Like he looked like he needs to be in like one of those stereotypical blaxploitation movies, the little Chinese criminal. Believe it or not, I'm actually not what do you call that, stereotyping him? He's got a rap sheet that is long as shit too, just so y'all know. So I'm not stereotyping him for no reason. Jesse Vang was granted a $500,000 bond at their first hearing since the new charges were announced. They're due back in court Monday for an initial appearance. So this article came out on October the 21st. So that would be, said, ancient Chinese secrets. Dre the Dream, you better stop. Stop instigating, Dre. Bauer, the mother, is now facing charges of chronic neglect of a child resulting in death, neglecting a child, and resisting or obstructing an officer. Her boyfriend, Vang, is charged with physical abuse of a child, repeated acts causing death, hiding a corpse, and resisting or obstructing an officer, according to court documents obtained by Scripps News Green Bay. Bauer and Vang were previously arrested on multiple charges, including child neglect, after Vue was reported missing in February. And I think initially when this story came out, the boyfriend came up with some weird-ass cockamamie story that made no sense at all, right? But they were able to find the body, so now they know all of that was a lie. At a probable cause hearing in April, investigators testified that Bauer had sent Vue to stay with Vang because the child had behavioral issues. And so the weird thing about that is that the mother said that the boy had behavioral issues when she sent this boy to stay with her boyfriend who has behavioral issues. And I wonder, how the F does that make any sense when he is a career criminal and he's supposed to teach this boy what? Which is why initially I said the mother needs to be charged also, and now she's getting charged. So to the prosecutors or whoever, if y'all are listening to me, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Now, let's see. His remains were found last month on private property by a hunter, so he was dumped somewhere. In a criminal complaint against Bauer and Vang, investigators detailed several incidents of neglect and abuse, as well as a healing skull fracture that dates back to the time of his death. And I want y'all to remember, this boy is 3 years old, and he was hit so hard that he had a healing skull fracture. A child abuse pediatrician noted that the history provided by caregivers to law enforcement and messages to each other is consistent that this boy was tortured to death. Bauer faces up to 60 years in prison if convicted, and Vane could possibly get life in prison, which he absolutely deserves it. Let me see if I could show y'all, just so y'all know I am not trying to slander this man with the slanted eyes. He is a full-on baby beater, baby killer. Where is it at? Do I have it? It's in my old video. Why do I not have that? It's like a collage of mugshots. It's like 16 different mugshots. If I find it, I'll post it. Let me give you guys the fair usage and we'll just watch the news videos. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. For those watching right now, if y'all would do me a favor and leave a comment, hit the thumbs up also to share this video. If I find it, I'll stop the video and I'll show y'all real quick. But let's go. Let's take a look. Only 2 news videos.
It is with a heavy heart that I announce to you today those remains were identified as Elijah Vue.
And we begin with breaking news. The search for
Skip it.
3-year-old Elijah Vue.
Hold on, let's try it again.
Now to the legal landscape. Our legal analyst, attorney Dan Adams, joins us every Monday morning, breaking down the biggest cases happening across Wisconsin and the country. Good morning, Dan. First up, the mother of 3-year-old Elijah Vue and her boyfriend are returning to court today. Both are facing new charges in connection to the young boy's death. What happens next in this case?
Sure. Good morning, Mallory. Yeah, today is an initial appearance, which is the first time that
I'm going to screen share this so y'all can see it. I found one of them. This is not the best picture, but I'm going to show y'all. And he went by multiple different names too. So we're going to make this big on the screen so y'all can see it. Just know that all of these pictures are him. Every one of these are him. And this is the man that this woman sent her child to, a man who is a career, lifelong criminal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. At least 15 different mug shots. I know career criminals that don't even have that many goddamn mug shots.
defendant seized the judge in their case. Last week, the criminal complaint alleging the homicide theories was filed. So they've been in the court system for another case for just child abuse. That case is now being replaced with this homicide case. They had bail set last week. Today will be a time when there's going to be a status on Jesse Vang's attorney. Right now, he does not have an attorney appointed to him. Of course, every American in the court system who's alleged to have committed a crime has the right to an attorney. If they can't afford one, they have one appointed to them. At this point, it looks like the Public Defender Agency has not been able to find an attorney. Of course, it would be very hard to find an attorney willing to step up into this case, given the notoriety and the allegations. After an attorney is appointed and they have an initial appearance, they'll set the case for a preliminary hearing, where that's going to be a probable cause hearing where the allegations are going to be read out in open court. After that, of course, we're going to start getting into discovery and the actual meat of the case. So after 8 months of waiting, this case is set to actually start getting going this week.
Yeah, now that Vue's remains have been found, this really has changed this case. What will the state need to prove to find Vang and Bauer guilty of homicide?
Well, interesting enough, Vang and Bauer are charged under different theories. Bauer, the mom, is charged under a theory that her chronic neglect, that's failing to give shelter, food, and in this case, care to the child, resulted in death. That's one theory. Vang has a different theory. the state is pursuing. They are saying that repeated physical acts of abuse to the child caused the death. And in fact, they have to prove 3 different physical acts of abuse to the child, one of which was the actual cause of death. And in this case, we know that there was repeated neglect and physical abuse to the child because Bauer and Vang documented that abuse on their cell phones and messages back and forth to each other. What we don't have, and what even the medical examiner has not been able to show, is what actual cause or what manner caused the death of the boy. We know the boy was in a situation where he was being abused. We know that Vang tried to cover up the eventual death of the boy.
If you guys are watching right now, do me a favor and please click that thumbs up. We want to have at least 1 thumb up for everybody watching right now. So if y'all will help me, if you're listening, please do me a favor and please hit that thumbs up.
By getting rid of a suitcase where the boy's DNA was later found, but there's really a donut hole of evidence here of what was the actual cause of the boy's death. The state's going to use a circumstantial case here to say, well, we know the boy was being abused before. We know they tried to cover it up after. We can only surmise that the boy died because of an act of physical abuse in the home. So it's a little interesting here, but we'll see how it plays out going forward.
Yeah, and we will have updates on their court appearances later this afternoon.
Difficult time with the details in this complaint.
Right, during the hearing here, she did seem affected by those details when discussing the impact of Elijah's death, and his mother and her boyfriend still claim they don't know what happened to him. The report that a 3-year-old had wandered off on a February morning drew scores of volunteers to search for him. Even as night fell, there were troubling signs about missing Elijah Vue, such as a small shoe outside by a dumpster.
This was abuse that occurred over a long period of time, several months.
The police investigation revealed Elijah's mom, Katrina Bauer, left him at her boyfriend's apartment for days at a time to be disciplined. Elijah's remains were found 7 months later. Prosecutors now charging Jesse Vang with abusing the boy until he died and Bauer with chronic neglect, leading to his death. Both making their first court appearances Friday on the new charges that detail, quote, multiple types of maltreatment, including forced position holding, exposure to cold water showers, sleep deprivation, isolation, and terrorizing.
They are the most serious charges, which involve the death, and not only the death of another human being, of a young child. He's facing life imprisonment, which gives him an incentive to flee.
According to the criminal complaint, investigators can't say exactly how Elijah died, but photos on Bauer's phone show he had bruises, and the body showed a healing skull fracture. Detectives also found video showing Vang leaving an empty suitcase at a charity the day before the boy was reported missing. Elijah's DNA was found inside that suitcase.
These charges are extremely serious. And recognition of the death of this young child does need to be given.
A criminal complaint that was very difficult to read, Nick. The pair, they were already in jail on child abuse charges, but now that they're linked to his death, those bails were raised significantly.
Right, Vang's bail here in court today raised to $500,000. Bauer's bail at $400,000. They remain, as you mentioned, in custody here at the jail. If Vang is convicted, he faces a mandatory life sentence. Bauer is looking at upwards of 60 years.
So to conclude, I won't keep you guys too long with the details of this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you go back and watch the original video, I think that the boyfriend was actually trying to blame all of this on the mom. He wasn't taking any accountability from this at all. And you'd have to think, if that's his behavior and this child was always being left in his care and this child had numerous signs of long-term abuse and torture, then it was either the mom or him. And I believe that the majority of it was him, and mom exacerbated it by continuing to keep delivering this boy to this man's care, knowing that something was going wrong. So again, I think they got this right. If mom gets 60 years, because she took her child, what I like to call on the AFC, to the Thug Zoo, and she let her son play with the thug lion, and the thug lion murdered and mauled her child, she needs just as much time in prison as he gets. So I think that they actually got this correct, and that needs to be the standard so people understand that we need to go hard against people who hurt, murder, and abuse kids, period. And there just shouldn't be any leniency there, in my humble opinion. So to Elijah Vue, I'm glad that they found his body. R.I.P. to that baby and to these two jerk-offs of alleged human beings, man. Like I said, she needs the whole 60 years. He needs the whole life sentence, and that should just be the end of it. But thank y'all for listening. Leave a comment in the comment section if you've been following the story, and let me know what you think. If we missed something, please let me know. Thank you.